As a lawyer, has a case ever ruined your life? My client Emily was accused of unaliving her own child. When the case was first presented to me, I realized that there was overwhelming evidence against her. Her fingerprints were found on a knife at the scene. A sedative from her medicine cabinet was in the child's system, and witnesses claimed to have seen her carrying a heavy tarp to her car around the time of the incident. I was ready to advise her to take a plea deal, but something about Emily's demeanor made me pause. She seemed broken and hopeful, truly going through the grief of losing her child. She didn't seem capable of doing something like this to me. This is the judgment that ruined my life. I delved deeper into the evidence. I was able to confirm that the knife, while containing her fingerprints and blood from the child, actually had blood much older than the time of the unaliving. She claimed the kid had sliced his finger while cutting an apple, and that the knife simply hadn't been cleaned yet. It was placed in the dishwasher with other dirty dishes. I was also able to confirm that the time frame of the unliving had a margin of error that hadn't been considered. The sedative used was over the counter, and the eyewitnesses were unreliable. One had poor vision and wasn't wearing her glasses, proven upon cross-examination, and the other had a long-standing feud with Emily's family. Most intriguingly, multiple people reported seeing an unfamiliar man near Emily's home around the time of the crime. It was around this time that, shamefully, I'd taken a romantic interest in Emily. I know that it isn't okay to do, and I absolutely regret it, but I couldn't help but care for her as a grieving mother. We eventually found the unfamiliar man and took him in for questioning. He was a troubled individual with a long criminal history, and shockingly, the father of Emily's child. He was visibly nervous during questioning, fidgeting and constantly glancing at the two-way mirror. When he was presented with the eyewitness evidence, he confessed to being at the scene of the crime. Upon further questioning, he changed his story multiple times. A few days after the interrogation, I had gone to where Emily was staying to see her. Shamefully, for romantic interest, I dropped my phone in between the crack of the bed and the bed frame, and I reached in to pull it out. The only thing is, when I pulled my hand out, it wasn't what I had dropped. It was a USB. I nervously slipped it into my pocket and grabbed what I had actually dropped. When I went home that night, I popped the USB into my computer, and it had a single MP4 file on it. I opened it up, only to see home camera footage of Emily unaliving her child. I was completely and utterly horrified. The first thing I did was race back to where Emily was staying, not her home because her home was a crime scene. She convinced me to not submit the evidence. Emily was acquitted and no longer a suspect in the case. The trial was held and the suspicious man was sentenced. Had the story ended here, it could have been one of the best cases of my short career, but it hadn't. I was so swayed and in love with Emily that I couldn't make the decision to submit the evidence. I was horrified that I'd let a guilty person walk free. I decided to turn the evidence in anonymously, but it didn't take them long to trace it back to me. I was disbarred for withholding evidence and my life fell apart. Emily was arrested, but I also paid the price for her crime, all because I trusted her innocence. I lost my career and served 8 years in prison. After getting out, I had no friends, and my family didn't want anything to do with me. It's been 10 years since the incident, and my life will never get better. I know that I messed up, and I want to move past it, but people won't let me forget. I hate who I've become. I wish I was in jail for the rest of my life. I wish I never fell in love with Emily.